Hey, Dave Paulides for the Kootenai Missing Project, the copyrighted edition of our series. And I am taking you to one of the most beautiful spots in northwest Montana. We're right next to the Kootenai River Suspension Bridge, and you can look that up online. But we got the river behind me and Kootenai Falls also behind me. It's a pretty popular area. You might see people down by the river, and you might see people that are walking around. So anyhow, just a magical spot. So first of all, a lot of people have asked to follow me besides here, besides on Facebook. Go to my Twitter account, David Paulides, the Kootenai Missing, and I post a lot of things there that I won't post here or on my Facebook account. So, and do me a huge favor, as we're going into spring, this is a huge one, I want you to put this on all your social media sites. Get our videos out there, because we're kind of hitting a plateau as far as likes and dislikes. There's a lot of people putting down they don't like me right now, so the thumbs up I greatly appreciate. I got a letter this week from one of the viewers who's disabled, and this person said that they have depression and they're disabled, and the videos, when I take them to spots, they love them because it takes them out of their depression. That really means a lot to me, and I appreciate those comments, and it gives me the incentive to come to places like this. Right now, we're about a 2.5, 3-hour drive from my home, so when we get here, we really don't know what the weather's going to be like. So if you hear some wind or whatever, hey, it's the way it's got to be. If you hear the falls behind me, enjoy it. Another letter I got, somebody was talking about pyramids, water, and granite. And I'll tell you to go look it up online, but there is this three-way association with the pyramids and granite and water, and you might want to look into that. It's just another associated factor. This last week in Montana, we had the first grizzly bear attack just northwest of Great Falls. A man was out hiking alone, and a grizzly attacked and bit him on the thigh. He shot it, and it ran off. Fish and Game came back in and killed it later. But the thing about grizzly bears, you're much more safe if you're in a large group of people. The larger the group, the safer you're going to be. So hiking alone can be dangerous. Luckily, he got out of it alive, which is saying something. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about something we haven't talked about before, and that's people's beliefs. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people believe in the spiritual world, religious world. Let's talk about religion in this video, because a lot of you have said in various posts that, oh, if he just had said something, then it would have saved his life. If he just would have said, Jesus saved me, or God saved me, it would have saved his life. I'm going to tell you about some cases from my books that may enlighten you greatly to that subject. First of all, let's start off with Jared Adadero. Jared's dad, Alan, is deeply religious, and they owned a resort at the time Jared disappeared. And at the resort, they had one of those religious fish posts on their sign. So Jared disappeared on a trail from a family that is deeply religious. You can watch that video on this site. Also, the disappearance of Bobby Boatman from a summer Christian site next to Rocky Mountain National Park. He disappeared. He was found later the following year, deceased. Just remnants of him, just small pieces of him, way up the side of Mount Meeker. Again, from a religious site. Dr. Maurice Domitz, also a video here on this site. He was a pastor. He had a PhD in theology. He was in charge of several churches before he retired, and he disappeared. I wrote about a Yosemite trip that a church group from Los Angeles took. A member was last in line coming down from Yosemite Falls. He disappeared. Highly religious man, never found. And there's also another case I talked about out in New Mexico, where a woman, elderly woman, was going to a religious retreat. They found her car parked on the side of a dirt road. She was never found. Famous story out of Ohio that I wrote about. A 63-year-old man disappeared from his house early in the morning, left his shoes behind, left his belt behind. Front door was partially opened. They lived next to a river. He was never found. He was not only an elder in their church, a Sunday school teacher. So, what does this all mean? That's a small fraction of what I've written about. So the people that are pushing the theory that if you're highly religious, you're going to be saved, I don't think so. And here's another reason. There was the leader of the Protestant Diocese of Montana that disappeared in Glacier National Park. He was found weeks later in a creek, deceased. He was the head of the diocese. Another famous case. This person was the leader of the Episcopal Diocese of the United States, vacationing overseas, disappeared. He and his wife. She went to look for help. He stayed behind. They found him up the side of a cliff, naked, in a praying position. And they found his clothes scattered between the point of the car and where he was found. Again, head of the Episcopal Diocese. 2 heads of churches disappeared. So I think those people would know what to say in these circumstances if they thought that would save their lives. Now, let's make this clear. I'm not putting down religion at all. I'm balancing the argument here. Some people are very, very, some would say pushy about this religious stance. Others of you don't want to hear about it. I think you need to hear about it to, again, balance the stage about what we're talking about here. And I think that's important. And I think if you understand the numbers of highly religious people that have disappeared, your paradigm would shift. And you would start to say, well, it might be an important factor for some, but even the heads of these churches disappeared. So I think that's important. I wanted to sort of move on from the ranch, and I'll come back to it in a couple of videos. But in this one, I wanted you to hear this one subgroup of highly religious people. Again, Atadero, Boatman, Domics, a religious group from Yosemite where the member disappeared on a trail that's paved and he should have never disappeared. The elderly woman disappeared on her way to New Mexico, never has been found, in a cluster zone. The man who's a Sunday school elder, highly religious, went to church every Sunday, walked out of his house in the middle of the morning, supposedly going to work, but forgot all the necessities that you would take to work. He was never found. And the 2 leaders of the church should ring home. Now, going to the mailbag. The question is, and I want to ask you guys, so are you a person of faith or are you a person of science? And I get asked this a lot. And listen to this. Faith. This is from a description that was given to me. Complete trust in someone or something, strong belief in God or in the doctrines of religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Let me read that again. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. There was a show on years ago called Lost. And I can remember sitting in the living room with my kids watching it. And a member of the team on Lost would always say, are you a person of faith or are you a person of science? And I think that some of the most enlightened people are both. And I think that's important. Now, Dr. Bruce Maccabee chimed in with more on his hypothesis that we talked about last week. And it is, the basic hypothesis is not that the landform is an antenna, but rather that it is constructed to conceal the antenna. Think of it as a big dish antenna pointing towards the sky. Imagine there is at the center a backfeed location, and that power feed is designed to emit an expanding wavefront that grows from distance to feed the point. The wavefront going outward is designed to fill the dish and then propagate away from the antenna as a plane wavefront that creates a beam of nearly constant diameter. That is, starts out as the diameter of the dish. The simple model will show how the beam is created. So Maccabee is way smarter than me, and sometimes I have a difficult time understanding what he's saying, but I think that point is important. And if it is buried in the ground, as he believes in his hypothesis, then that disruption could cause a lot of problems. Now, I got a letter from an individual. You're going to like this. It says, I'm writing to inform you of a conversion experience. I came into contact with your material several years ago when I bought 3 of your books, The Hoopa Project, Tribal Bigfoot, and The Western U.S. Missing 411. To be honest, these reads were done because of a friend, who I thought was a crackpot at the time, made the recommendation. I truly wasn't interested or convinced, but I read them nonetheless. I thought just the same as many of the other opponents and naysayers. I thought there was a simple explanation that would account for the facts in your books, or that you were misconstruing or misrepresenting information to fit your own narrative. I left it at that until now. Before I go any further, I want to give some background so you don't think I'm one of those trolls on your Canine Missing YouTube channel here. I'm also not a gullible person, nor care for conspiracy. I grew up in the woods as a young child and at the age of 23 joined the Air Force Special Operations Survive, Evade, Resist, Escape Specialist Team, Team Bravo Class 401. We're a little-known, very small team of professionals with an extreme number of skill sets that are primarily used to teach across the branches of service, all sub-skill sets under the 4 categories listed above. I personally was a category expert trained extensively in evasive tactics, which included man tracking. We are all pretty cocky, and I'm no exception. After 3 years in the military, I was medically discharged due to a rare condition, but continued getting more and more efficient at my craft as it narrowed my capacity and forced adaptations I never would have confronted had I not gotten sick. I continued in my field working as a global contractor until 2013 when I retired. After I retired, I gained 2 master's degrees in cultural anthropology, focusing my studies on narrative and mythological accounts of mystic, religious, and tribal backgrounds, mainly to find natural scientific explanations for the apparent supernatural. I now reside in Washington with my family. Fast forward to October 30th, 2019, when I was made aware of a member of our church that had a sister that went missing in the North Cascades by the name of Rachel Lakoduk, Lakoduk. I decided to, at that point, come out of my retirement and offer my services as a free simply because she was connected to my church. As I gathered information by personally questioning his sister-in-law, I kept coming across disturbing information that reminded me of your work. And quite frankly, it pissed me off because your work was science fiction, meant to keep little children in their beds at night. Yet the facts kept piling up. She went missing just as a large snowstorm was rolling into the area. Searchers looked for Rachel for weeks and gave up the search back in February-March timeframe. She went missing likely between 2 and 5 p.m. near a body of water called Hidden Lake. There are 3 peaks in the area called Little Devil, Fallen Angel, and Big Devil Peaks that looms before the little town of Diablo with nearby Diablo Lake. The Hidden Lookout Trail where she went missing is an extremely rocky area with boulder fields within it. She was not mentally unstable. She had much to look forward to that night. She brought ample gear to stay the night but was not planning on it. She was an avid and very experienced and careful hiker. She was young, strong, she was prepared for the weather and had researched the Hidden Lake Trail for years before she hiked it. She had left her phone in the car and the list kept growing. Paying attention? I was dumbfounded and still did not believe your factual profiling method, even when faced with the sheer facts myself, and so I decided to prove you wrong. This is not some conspiracy and not some magic shit. So I gathered my kit and partner and we ventured into the North Cascade Mountains during the snowy season against the recommendation of park rangers and closures of State Route 20. Hey, I'm an effing Special Forces guy, what can I say? Yeah, it got weird and I simply cannot put all the strange experiences into this long email, but this lady had something to look forward to that evening and never made it. She did not fake her own death as I originally thought, and she did not vanish anywhere within several kilometers of the trail as I personally checked that ground myself. I exhausted myself several days a week for many weeks, spending countless hours of my personal time and finances to realize you are not lying. Sorry, some people are thick-headed and just need to see for themselves. Rachel's family is devastated. Now I have tasted a small piece of what it's like to not be able to find my target. That has never happened to me before. Hey, can such a freaking mistake be looming in my own backyard? I've been to 26 international countries and have never lost my target till this point. I believe her story needs to be added to your profile. P.S. My strangest experience is that I was on the top of a knoll searching a ridge at 4,600 feet. When I believed that she may have come down, she had taken a shortcut to her car, and I began feeling a strange flute-like noise that sounded like a cross between a flute and a woman singing something beautiful. It was so interesting I began walking towards it. It was nothing I'd ever heard in all my time in the woods, identifying both human-made and animal sounds. As I slogged up the slope away from my friend, who I made a warming fire for, it began to snow. I suddenly felt like it was being watched as well as baited. Usually, feelings such as those have a sturdy subconscious undergirding, grounded in the mind's unregistered sensory bank. Yet for some reason, this time I lost my nerve as I sensed an ambush and recalled my profile in my mind. I thought, oh shit, I'm next. Mr. Paulides, your material may have saved my well-being. That's when I did something I rarely do, and I turned around and quickly left the area and told my friend we were done. No questions asked, and we closed the search for the day. I have to be honest, Dave, seriously, I'm struggling with this, and there is a part of me that simply cannot believe people are simply vanishing, and so I plan on resuming a search as soon as the roads become open and passable. I can't believe this, but somehow now I can. Now mostly because your profile lined up perfectly with Rachel's disappearance and a seasoned special operative who has countless hours in training in profiling and man tracking could not locate a trace of her. I have one last place I'm going to check before I completely believe this is a true 411 case, and I keep you apprised of my feelings. Sincerely yours, and thank you for the countless hours you've spent. Please forgive those of us who have had a hard time believing that people can go missing in a country we so bravely and desperately fought to keep safe. If you need to contact me, you can through the mailbag. Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. Because I know that there's countless people just like this man that have gone into the woods looking for people they don't know, sacrificed their own well-being and time away from their family looking for people they never met. And that's most of the search and rescue workers across the U.S. and Canada. And I can't tell you how indebted we are to those people. I can't tell you the number of times that those individuals have gone out and saved someone's life. And this man, looking for Rachel, what can I say? What can you say about somebody who's just graciously giving of themselves for nothing? Now, I read it for a number of reasons. First of all, to let you guys know that there's a lot of people doing this. Second of all, it's a third party telling you, if you haven't read the books, maybe you should, just like maybe he should have. Because you maybe would have a better understanding of what I've been talking about all these years. Just like the people with a religious background, it's hard to understand all the profile points. All of the profile points. And how they can apply to each individual case. And this man went down and started to name all those points, which a lot of you can't do because you really don't understand them all. I get a lot of questions on the videos about, well, what about this or what about that? And I can't go through them all and in each video. I try to keep these all about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, because when they get much longer, they take a lot longer to upload, especially in my remote area. So I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate the support. I want to tell you that this view right here doesn't get much better than that. And today, my cameraman, for the people that have seen me at conferences and things in the recent past, you've met Angie, and we're together with daughter Elise, and they're our camera crew and sound crew and time crew, and I appreciate that. And it's really coming out to these places, like you see right here, that cleanses that soul. and refreshes you and makes you ready to go some more. So I hope you're having a great weekend, and I know that many of you are appreciating the videos. I appreciate the feedback. So hopefully I'll be back soon, and from another great location. So thank you for your time.